Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Are You Ready Wrestling podcast here on Newport City Radio. We are 7 days removed from All In London. It was just an incredible event. Me and Curtis, as you might have seen, were there and had a phenomenal time. We'll talk all about that in a couple of seconds' time. But as I just mentioned, the man sat alongside me who's been on this journey from day one. He's been down since day one-ish. Curtis, hello.
Hello.
What a week it's been for professional wrestling in Europe. What a week.
Massive. There's been so many events, so many great matches, so many great wrestlers. It's been a phenomenal week for wrestling, and not even just a phenomenal week, the past 2 weeks. There's just event after event after event. There's
6 days, the space from, well, even 7 days if you go from Saturday to Saturday. There was so much going on in London last weekend for All In weekend.
Well, even just it started off with Dynamite and Collision in Cardiff.
Of course.
On the Wednesday, then it went to All In. Then after that, it was Bash in Berlin.
Yep.
Obviously, SmackDown was in Berlin as well. In the Uber Arena. So was Bash in Berlin. We've got NXT No Mercy tonight, I believe.
Yes. We record this on Sunday.
What time is that, actually?
It's the usual 1 o'clock start, I believe.
Is it? I thought.
But just for European wrestling, and the spotlight to be on Europe was phenomenal.
Oh yeah, the fans was brilliant, especially even the UK. We all know the UK fans love wrestling. We're always huge about it. But even in Germany, the fans put on a show for themselves. How loud and electric they were, even for all the wrestlers. And they wasn't just going for their hometown heroes.
As I mentioned, European wrestling, because quite often these big shows emanate from America, or we see them from Canada. We know that WWE have gone more global. This year we've seen shows in the likes of France, with Saudi Arabia, Australia, which AEW go into. I'm sure we'll come on to that in our AEW portion of this week's podcast. But the past 7 days, I think, has just shown how great the European scene, all European fans are, because, as you mentioned on last week's podcast, I wasn't, apart from Gunther in the main event and Drew McIntyre, there's a couple of on the WWE show, but European wrestling is in such a great place at the moment, and I think Brendan White spoke glowingly about it when we had him on a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. But I think the past week has just shown what the potential is out there for wrestling in the European market.
You just mentioned about the shows going to Europe and all over the world, all over the globe. Obviously, Backlash in France.
Yes.
Clash of the Castle in Scotland, and now Bash in Berlin in Berlin.
Bash in Berlin was in Berlin. I've seen quite a few comments of that on social media over the weekend.
Anyway.
Bash in Berlin will emanate from Berlin, Germany.
Wouldn't have guessed that one. Anyway, funnily enough, the past 3 shows that have... Well, not the past 3 shows, but the 3 shows that have been in Europe and in the UK have all had the biggest arena gate in WWE history.
They have. I wanted to mention that when we come onto the WWE part of this podcast, which will be a little bit later on. You jumping the gun, Curtis?
Well, we were talking about Backlash, we were talking about Clash of the Castle, and now we're talking about Bash in Berlin, emanating from Berlin.
Again, no.
I had to get that in there the second time.
Yeah, it's just a great time to be a wrestling fan in the UK, and just in general in Europe. We know AEW coming back next year with Forbidden Door. They're coming back the year after with All In again at Wembley Stadium. WWE have held talks with the Mayor of London about bringing a WrestleMania to London.
I've still got my fingers crossed. I really hope we get a WrestleMania in the next 5 years.
We've seen over the past few years Bash in Berlin. We've seen Clash at the Castle in Scotland, and obviously down here in Wales we've seen Money in the Bank in London, Backlash in France. Obviously, Dynamite and Collision took place in Cardiff. I think there's potential for AEW to do more shows. I know Tony Khan, when I mentioned it to him, the pre-show media scrum about doing shows, maybe another show in Wales. He spoke glowingly about it. Comes to Rodney Parade, Tony. If you're listening, do a show at Rodney Parade. Thank you.
Capacity of 10,000.
Yeah, same as any arena show that they do in America, I suppose. Bring a pay-per-view to Newport. Come on, Tony, you know it makes sense.
Forbidden Door, maybe?
That's in London.
Yeah, but in a few years' time.
In a few years' time, maybe. But it's just, we've been starved of major wrestling. We've maybe seen WWE come over here for a Raw or SmackDown, obviously the live events as well, which they do twice a year. But it's been like 30-odd years since we had a major event, obviously that being the SummerSlam in 92 at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, then we got Clash of the Castle.
Then it was 30 years on Clash of the Castle, and that seemed to light the touch paper.
Well, it was 64,000 people, so
it's exploded.
The wrestling scene over the UK and the Europe has exploded, and we've had so many people like Brendan White, ourselves as well, even Adam, and quite a lot of people of the wrestling fans.
Who made his return on last week's podcast.
Yeah, he did indeed. We was in our hotel.
Even though we were in London, and he was in Newport.
Yeah,
go back and listen to that.
It was a wild episode trying to record that. It was a very different experience from being in the studio.
Indeed it was, but yeah, the European had spoken 8 minutes about this. We're deserving of WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, well.
Take our hats off for a second. 2 years in a row, 50,000+ people at Wembley Stadium for All In. They go to Germany, they sell it out. They go to France, they sell it out. One of the best crowds of the year, best crowds of the decade. They go to Scotland, sell it out. Wales, sell it out. Even with Dynamite, that was a sellout in Cardiff.
Like, wrestling fans, even, you could go anywhere in the world at the minute, and wrestling fans really want those shows. Like, they just want any type of wrestling, especially WWE and AEW, their main shows. They want them because, well, just the crowd and the numbers just say it for themselves.
Speak for themselves.
Yeah.
So, we've got 2 pay-per-views a pay-per-view and a premium live event, I think, to rattle off this week, plus the other usual
bits and bobs
we go through on the podcast. But AEW did present All In from Wembley Stadium last Sunday. And yeah, they were obviously here last year, broke the attendance record for all-time wrestling show. I just wanted to kick off, Curtis. This is in the notes after we speak about the event itself. But I think we're meant to kick off with it here and now. They didn't announce an attendance.
They did not.
Which was the most interesting part of the night, in my opinion. Because last year, I don't use the word question mark, but the big angle of the show was, I think it was even the tagline for the show, the most watched or the biggest attended, whatever it was, biggest attended, I'm probably paraphrasing here, biggest attended wrestling event of all time. They had 82,000 or 81,000 and whatever, it's tattooed on Will Ospreay somewhere, but this year, 12 months on, A, they didn't announce an attendance, which I found fascinating, and B, from where we were, it seemed like about a quarter to a third of the stadium was taped off.
Yeah, it was.
Which, if they make such a big deal about the attendance last year and they come back and they don't even announce it this year, what are we even doing?
I know, it wasn't even like one section behind the stage that was taped off. It was over the opposite side of where we were sat. That was taped off as well. There was a fair big portion of the stadium that they could have loads of fans there. I didn't see why there was.
You see people going up and down the stairs in between the taped off sections to go and get drinks or food or merch or whatever. So if they are able to walk up there, then
why can't they sit there?
Surely you could open them.
Yeah, I understand it from the point of view from behind the stage. I understand that from their point of view, they don't really want fans there because of how big the stage was and stuff. I can understand that, but
there were sections that could have been opened up.
There was definitely sections that could have been opened up on the corners and stuff. But the opposite side, like, they made such a big deal out of it, especially last year when they had 81,000 fans, and this year they didn't even announce a attendance. They didn't really just... Yeah, the attendance and the marketing for it was poor, if I'm honest. But, yeah.
Why do you think it was poor? What could they have done better, in your opinion?
Well, taping off most of the third of the stadium, it's just not good, is it? It just doesn't look good for...
I think I can understand. I don't want to make excuses. But obviously they had Taylor Swift there the Saturday before, the Sunday before. So that turnaround time...
Wasn't a lot.
Obviously, they had to get all the Taylor Swift stuff out before they can get the AEW stuff in.
They used some of the Taylor Swift stage for the AEW stage.
Did they?
Yeah, I think some of it was from the Taylor Swift stuff. So I think the the bits that were going outwards. I think that was some of the Taylor Swift stuff. Supposedly they used some of, because they didn't have a lot of time to make their own stage and set it up. They just used. I mean, it makes sense. It saves them. It saves the money of bringing all this kit over. They might as well just use some of Taylor Swift's production stuff for the show. It makes sense.
It does.
The stage was really good, to be fair. I quite liked it.
Compared to last year it
was just a basic Tron, wasn't it?
I think it was done purposefully so they could break the attendance record.
Yeah, I think...
Which again goes back to my point of, one year they break the attendance record, and then next year half the stadium's taped off.
Yeah. It doesn't look good for numbers-wise, does it? You'd think, coming back to back, they would do well, but there's been a 20 to 30,000 drop of ticket sales from last year compared to this year, but this year was a really good show, must I admit. Let's not put a load of hate on it, but it was a really, really good show.
It was a phenomenal show, one of the best shows in the company's history, but it is something I wanted to pick up with you. The attendance last year, 81,035.
Yeah.
And the tagline for the show, the biggest event in wrestling history.
Right.
And now you compare that to 12 months on, they didn't announce an attendance. I'm sure someone will put in a Freedom of Information Act to Brent Council to get the official...
Have they purposely done that because they don't want...
Turnstile attendance is the word I was looking for.
Have they purposely not announced it due to the fact that there was a massive drop and they don't really want to ruin the ratings for them?
Probably. I wouldn't say it would ruin the ratings, so to speak.
Not the ratings so much, but like the limelight and the spotlight of All In London. Here's just a prediction for you. Not a prediction, but your thoughts. Obviously, they're coming back for Forbidden Door next year,
yes,
which we think will be in the O2. So does Dave Meltzer.
Yes.
And obviously, the following year after that, they're coming back for All In again.
Yes.
What do you think the attendance? Do you think it's going to be higher than this year's? Do you think it's going to drop down
in
a little bit more?
2026?
2026, yeah.
If this is an issue that AEW have had in America, killing the markets. Killing the markets, because I want to use the prime example of when they go to Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York for AEW Grand Slam. Because the first year they were there, they sold it out 20,000 people at the Tennis Stadium.
Yeah.
This was before All Out. This was a Dynamite special. Did really, really good numbers. Then the next year they went, I think they sold about 15,000 tickets.
Yeah.
And then the year again, they went next year, 12 to 10,000 tickets. And they're back again this year. So every year they've gone back 3 or 4 years. And every year, the ticket sales have gone down and down and down.
Do you think it's because they're putting it in the same stadium?
Yes.
And
that was why I kind of asked Tony the question of, will they move it?
This is why I like WWE as well. I like AEW as well, don't get me wrong, but I like what
I like AEW, however,
WWE, they're not doing the same consecutive shows each year. They had Clash of the Castle in Wales. Yes, there was 64,000 people in the following year. They had a massive decrease, but they moved it to Scotland.
It was an arena show rather than a stadium show. If they wanted to do it at Murrayfield or Ibrox with the Drew McIntyre situation, or if they wanted to do it at Hampden Park, they'd sell it out.
Of course they would.
No problem. They'd sell it out.
My main point is I like what they're doing. I like the fact that they are moving it around, and whereas AEW, that's 2 years in a row now that they've come back to London. You'd think after 2 years, for the third one that they do...
Yeah, Curtis, but as I just mentioned, the example of Grand Slam in America, they're going back again in November. Or late October, whenever it is, after the tennis is finished.
But don't you think they should move it?
I do. And that's why I asked Tony the question of, we've had great reception in Wales, he sold it out. Is there any chance that you could move
the Principality Stadium for either All In or All Out?
Or All In even. Even the Cardiff City Stadium, that's 30,000 people.
Cardiff City Stadium, Principality, either one. Why don't you get that marketing for wrestling out there, especially with WWE having the Netflix deal, which is opening them up to more than, I think, wasn't it 350 million or 250
Something like
million?
that. It's a ridiculous amount.
250 to 350 million more viewers, which is huge, which is humongous. And you know, for the Netflix deal, they're going to get some of their big stars, the likes of Roman Reigns and possibly The Rock,
CM Punk,
John Cena. They're gonna get so many big wrestlers in, and I feel like AEW need to do more shows around Europe. Yes, they're going to Australia,
which is a welcome thing in my opinion.
They're going to London. They're doing that. All in 2026 will be their 4th show in London.
In 4 consecutive years.
Forbidden Door in London, wrong choice, wrong place. Either all in 2026 and Forbidden Door in 2025, wrong choice. Right pay-per-view or PLE, wrong location.
Yes.
I feel like they could have moved Forbidden Door to Cardiff or maybe they already had it signed off for
but
London.
Forbidden Door isn't a stadium show. I know you mentioned to move it to Cardiff. I don't think they do a pay-per-view at a 4,000 arena or 4,000 seat arena. As good as the International Arena is, I don't see them doing it there. So if they were good to do it, Manchester, you've just had the Co-op Arena open.
Manchester, great place.
Birmingham.
Why don't they do it in these venues? Like, instead of going back to London, yes, London is a great place. Yes, it's easy for travellers to get there because of the transport that they have. But if you want to expand the marketing for wrestling to compete with WWE, why don't you move it out? Yes, it's good that you're moving it out of America and North America. Dynamite and Collision was the first show to ever be taped outside of North America, but if they want to expand themselves even more and compete with WWE, especially when the Netflix deal comes in January, why don't they move? Like, having wrestling in London is great. Honestly, it was a great experience. I'd love to do it again, but in the same place. It doesn't look, I don't want to say it doesn't look very professional, but it just doesn't look great for viewership, because if you've done 2 pay-per-views and there's been a 20 to 30,000 difference in the space of 12 months, it just doesn't look good. It really doesn't. And the fact that they didn't announce attendance, unprofessional, poor. It's their choice, but personally, I think I'm not trying to be biased and say they need to bring it to Wales, but I feel like they need to expand.
Bring it to Wales, Tony. Curtis is demanding you. We want a pay-per-view here in the UK. We want a pay-per-view outside London. Bring it to Wales, Tony.
I just feel like
Bucket, you coward. In the words of the immortal Tom Campbell. Shout out to you, Tom.
Yeah, shout out to you, Tom. Gutted I couldn't get a photo with you. Damn it. But I just feel like for them the best thing to do is to move it outside of London. Yes, Tony Khan.
Because, sorry to jump in, because when they return then to London 2026,
what's the numbers going to look like?
If they move, say, Forbidden Door next year to, let's hypothetically say Manchester, they move it to the Co-op Arena, 20-odd thousand, they sell that out, which I think they will, if you have 50,000 for a stadium show. Yes, it was a 20,000 drop, but I see them selling Forbidden Door out with it being an arena show. They'll stack the card, New Japan stars, AEW stars, maybe some British wrestlers, because the whole Forbidden Door aspect is obviously working with the other promotions, like your New Japans, like your Stardoms, like your CMLLs, like they did last year. So I'm sure they'll incorporate some Rev Pro stars in there, maybe other British indie stars, like they did on the weekend, which will come on to elongated way into our AEW All-In review. But yeah, if they move it from next year to, let's say, as I just said, hypothetically, Manchester, when they return there in 2026 in London, it's been 2 years since they were there. It has that little bit of freshness. I'm sure it will anyway, with All-In next year being in Texas. But if they did move it and then they come back in 26 with All-In at Wembley Stadium, it's something a little bit different, something a little bit new. I know it's only 2 years, yes, but
that would be
2 years is a long time.
But the point is, they're doing 4 consecutive shows in London. They've done 1 show in Wales, which is the first ever outside of North America. Huge step, brilliant for the Welsh fans, brilliant for Cardiff. But doing multiple shows, 4 consecutive shows in London, it just doesn't sit right with me. I just disagree with it, because yes, Tony Khan is part owner or owner of Fulham.
Tony.
And he loves London. His family was brought up there and different bits like that. But if he wants to expand it, stop going to London every year.
You stopped yourself from swearing then, didn't you?
Yeah.
However, AEW did bring us Forbidden Door.
That's next year. Don't
That's
get ahead
next
yourself.
year. I'm thinking a year in advance here, because AEW did bring us...
If you're a year ahead, where's WrestleMania going?
Ooh, it's going to be in... where's it going to be, Curtis? It's going to be in... New York. No.
Anyway, should we get on with the All-In review?
Yeah, we're 25 minutes into this podcast. We haven't started on the card. We won't dive too deep into the kickoff show. There was matches in there. One wasn't announced going in and was just a way to get as many people on the card as possible. A 16-man tag, which features too many wrestlers to name, but it was nice to see Tommy Billington, who we've seen wrestle Chris Jericho in Cardiff, get a huge pop in Wembley Stadium. He was quite good last week against Jericho on Dynamite. Carl Fletcher as well, I thought was quite cool. Yeah, baby faces won there. The baby faces, I don't know where AEW is at the moment. Anthony Ogogo as well. I don't think he's wrestled for a long time. It's nice to see him on the card as well. Unfortunately, he did lose, but nice for him to get a pop in his own town. Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway lost to Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii, who was very, very over, both in Cardiff and in Wembley. Willow Nightingale and Ishii won, and it's going to now be a Chicago Street Fight at All Out, which Nightingale picked because of the stipulation, or because of the stipulation going into the match that the winner would pick the stipulation. What did you think of that match, quickly, Curtis, before we move on? Because there wasn't a lot. There was a lot and not a lot happening on the kickoff show. We'll come on to that in a couple of seconds' time.
Yeah, it was good. The stipulation was interesting.
Wasn't announced, though. It was announced on Dynamite, wasn't it, this week?
Yeah.
So that's your thoughts on the match?
It was good, yeah. Simple. I'm a simple man with simple words.
And the last match, which was announced before time, which featured quite a few legendary names in the world of professional wrestling. The Von Erich, Sammy Guevara, Katsuyori Shibata and Dustin Rhodes. Defeated the Undisputed Kingdom, consisting of Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, and the Cage of Agony, which is Bishop Khan, Brian Cage, and Toa Loa. The interesting thing, I think, in this match is that someone obviously got lost somewhere, and both Sammy Guevara and Brian Cage had Wolverine-inspired gear.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit nuts.
Yeah.
Whether that was a joke or whether that was accidental or I don't know. But yeah, it was nice to see the Von Erichs. Obviously, they've come back into things recently with the release of the Iron Claw film, which obviously put spotlight on them and their family and the story behind the Von Erichs. Yeah, nice to see some legends like the Dustin Rhodes of the world and the Sammy Guevaras of the world on the cards.
Yeah, it was good, to be fair.
Yeah, also on the kickoff show, which wasn't shown to us in the arena. It was more of a kickoff show if you're watching abroad or watching on YouTube exclusive. They announced that Swerve has signed a new deal.
He has.
Which Dave Meltzer's kind of reported on, and it's a little bit muddy water. And I'll tell you for why. Because it's rumoured that he signed a new deal. It's one of the biggest in the history of AEW.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was Dave Meltzer, I could be wrong, reported that WWE made a play to sign both Swerve and Prince Nana, the whole act.
Yeah.
But other people are saying they've still got quite a few years left on their contract.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of muddy waters in the reporting.
Yeah. Uncertainty in the report.
Yeah, but Swerve has been the top guy in AEW.
Didn't he put a tweet out, though? I've seen something on Instagram about them saying about WWE and AEW about his contract being signed with AEW extension stuff, and didn't he put something along like the eye emoji or something like that? Do you want to see the text messages or something?
He's
like
done
that?
something like that, yeah.
Something along those lines.
But AEW have renewed Swerve Strickland's contract, business-wise, Curtis, for a man who was their champion for a couple of months, people have been arguing about the booking, whether he was a transitional champion for Danielson and whatever, but smart move to renew his contract.
Yeah, they want to keep one of their major stars. Obviously, he was the world champion for a good few months. It was a great match that they had with Brian, which we'll get onto in a couple of minutes, but I think it's a very smart move to keep him there, because we know professional wrestling the way it is. As soon as the contracts expire, anyone can do anything and go anywhere, which we'll also talk about when we get to the Casino Gauntlet match.
We'll do indeed. I got one question though for you, Curtis.
Is it Are You Ready?
Whose house?
Swerve's house.
I said whose house?
Swerve's house.
Whose house?
Swerve's house.
No, it's my house.
It's not your house. You're wearing a Roman Reigns t-shirt from about 3 years ago.
Where's your Roman Reigns shirt? Exactly.
It's at home, actually.
Is it?
I've got a Bloodline shirt.
When was the last time you acknowledged your tribal chief?
When he last appeared on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. And no, it's not Solo Sikoa. It's the original.
He was on SmackDown on Friday, Curtis. How dare you not acknowledge your tribal chief? Anyway, that's WWE talk. Come on to that. Also on the kickoff show, it was announced that Forbidden Door will be coming to London next year, which we knew would be announced at some point during the weekend, because on Friday it was leaked on social media that on the billboard coming out of Wembley Park Tube Station, on the LED boards, it said Forbidden Door was coming to London 2 days before it was announced to the world.
It was.
Which you think they did on purpose?
Yeah. I'm not going to get into it fully, but whilst we were doing media and stuff,
my sources state.
Well, my sources state. Not going to mention names. Not going to say who, where, when, all that.
Oh.
But yeah, so apparently it was leaked on purpose, and then it was fully announced on the kickoff show that it would be coming to London. It hasn't been announced where in London, but we suspect, and Dave Meltzer suspects, that it'll be in the O2 Arena in London.
It will indeed. It would be interesting, though. And I know Tony obviously owns Fulham. Could they do this at Craven Cottage?
Possibly.
There's
a good show.
They haven't announced it, but with the time, and it's the same weekend, but they could have a game there in the Premier League, so...
I mean, they could rearrange it.
Or Championship. We don't know how the season's going to go for Fulham.
Well, you never know, do you?
You never know. But also on the kickoff show, they announced AEW Grand Slam Australia, which we also mentioned a little bit earlier, which we're looking forward to.
Should we fly out to Australia and cover that event?
Yeah, I'm sure the Equal Radio will be able to cover our wages for that one, or the expenses for the flight.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be able to afford for a 12-hour... Is it a 24-hour flight or 12?
It's something like that, yeah.
24-hour flight. Imagine being on a 24-hour flight. That'd be painful.
Stuck next to you.
Oh, mate, I'm going first class. I'm getting my own bloody bedroom.
Sure you are. How are you going to pay for that?
Lamsey will pay for it.
Oh, like 10 grand?
Yeah.
I'm sure he will. Yeah, the most interesting thing on the kickoff show is with 10 minutes remaining, the competitors from the first match made their entrance. House of Black, I was really, really looking forward to seeing, made their entrance, and they were looking cool. You know, with quite a unique entrance with all the I want to say they were like monk type people coming out, and obviously, you know, the House of Black is one of the more spookier acts in AEW. And yeah, what did you think of it being done on the kickoff show rather than the first thing you see on the pay-per-view? Because quite often you start the pay-per-view, as we've seen in WWE.
I thought it transitioned from the kickoff to the actual event itself, because it went 18 minutes long. So did they have like 20
The
minutes?
entrance was done in the kickoff show, and then the match started when the show got underway.
Okay. So they did all the entrances with 10 minutes remaining. Did they maybe run early?
Maybe.
Did they...
I think it was done, though, so if you're watching the kickoff show, you can see like the wrestlers come into the ring and try and get extra buys for the pay-per-view.
And didn't they... I seen somewhere online that, I think it was on Cultaholic Wrestling, that the Darby Allin and Jack Perry match was cut short because of the curfew.
Yes, there was an 11 o'clock curfew which they had to follow, even though we weren't out the building until midnight.
Yeah, but we was doing the press conference. WWE.
So yes, the first match was the 4-way for the London Ladder match, which didn't feature the Doncaster family, Curtis.
It did not.
It did not, but the match that we tried to predict on the last edition, they were recorded here. Because recorded edition out in London, previewing Bash in Berlin, which I'll come on to after. We didn't know who would be in the match. They announced it would be, well, they didn't really announce to us in the audience. They announced on social media, obviously, after it was recorded. But we seen Pac and the Blackpool Combat Club of Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. We seen Pac climb. But Pac, it was supposed to be, again, reported out there, states that it was supposed to be Pac and the Lucha Brothers, who formed to make Death Triangle, who were supposed to win this match a couple of months ago. Obviously, there's a lot of rumours and speculation about the Lucha Brothers at the moment and then potentially jumping ship and going to WWE. But we did see Pac and the Blackpool Combat Club win, which I found a little bit strange, because in Cardiff on Wednesday we seen a 20-minute time limit draw between Castagnoli and Kazuchika Okada for the Continental title. And the people around, I don't know what they were saying around you, Kurt, people around me were saying that should have been on the card.
Yeah.
You know, if you do a 20-minute time limit draw on the Go Home show to a pay-per-view, then surely that should be on the pay-per-view itself.
Yeah.
Although they do have All Out coming up next weekend in Chicago, so I'm sure that they will run it back there. But in terms of matches to kick off the show, what did you think of the four-way match?
Good match. Entertaining, and that's all I've got to say because I'm a simple man.
Is that all your thoughts?
On that match, yeah. I've got more thoughts when it comes to the bigger matches.
Okay, including the next one, which I was looking forward to seeing. Mariah May defeats Timeless Toni Storm. Oh, we forgot to mention in the kickoff show, Saraya came to the ring and started cutting a promo about she's been disrespected and all that. She's on the card. She's not leaving the ring until she gets what she deserves. She's the best British female wrestler in AEW. And out comes Jamie Hayter, who we haven't seen in a year and a half. She had quite a bad injury. I think it was a shoulder injury. And we haven't seen her in... She missed last year's All In, which I was absolutely gutted for her, because in the lead up, she was the AEW Women's World Champion. She was one of the hottest acts in professional wrestling. But when she missed it, was quite devastating. However, she is back for All In this year, and yeah, got a thunderous ovation.
Indeed.
What were your thoughts on the return? Happy to see her back?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It was a great return.
I haven't got a lot to say today, have you, Curtis?
No. I'm very tired. I didn't go sleep till very late.
Mariah May defeats Timeless Toni Storm, and we've seen in Cardiff that Mariah May was quite over, so was Toni Storm. But what you said, you have more thoughts on the bigger matches. What were your thoughts on this one? Mariah May, Toni Storm. We'll come on to Will Ospreay after. What did you think of this match? And yeah, we have a new AEW Women's World Champion. It's a story that's been developing probably since... It's a 12-month story, I think, last year at All In, when it was a 4-way for the Women's World title, when Saraya won. We've seen kind of the seeds being planted for this Timeless Toni Storm character, and 12 months on, the story has come full circle with Mariah May, her prodigy, or former prodigy, beating the Master and picking up her AEW Women's World title. What were your thoughts on this one, Curtis?
Great match. Brilliant storyline of the past 12 months since last year's All In to now. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. It was a good match in this time space that they had. The structure of the card, though, wasn't the best.
Yeah, and this was something that was mentioned when we were walking out the stadium, and Dave Meltzer said it to us that... And I agree with him, the two women's matches should have been swapped around.
Yeah.
However, I think his argument was, if you follow up anything following up the Will Ospreay MJF stuff, was going to struggle. Anything.
Yeah.
So if you swapped it around, would you have the same momentum, or would you just be building more momentum for the main
Do you know what I
event?
Do you know what I disagreed with the card?
What do you disagree with?
Having Will Ospreay and MJF as the 9th match, not the co-main event. I disagreed with it. I believe it should have been the co-main event. They should have swapped out the women's matches and swapped round Will Ospreay and MJF to Jack Perry and to Darby Allin.
Yeah, but we seen with that match, time got cut. would that have had the same impact on the Will Ospreay MJF stuff? Would we have seen time get cut in that?
Possibly, but they had to factor in the returns in that match as well, which we'll get onto when we talk about that match. But I just how big the Will Ospreay and MJF stuff has been, and Will Ospreay being in his hometown, to have him as the 9th match on the card. We all knew the main event was going to be brilliant. But yeah,
we just mentioned Jamie Hayter and how she was one of the hottest acts in women's wrestling before she got injured. She was AEW Women's World Title Champion. The last time we seen her, I think she dropped the title to Toni Storm in a squash match because obviously she was injured. With Mariah May now being the Women's World Champion, how long do you give it until you see Jamie Hayter going after Toni Storm, Mariah May, two British female wrestlers? How long do you see it before you see those two going at it for the world title? Because surely you want to try and build the same momentum that Jamie Hayter had before she had her injury and the hype around her. So
I think she'll have a massive storyline with Saraya. That will have a few months of a storyline. Where that ends, I don't know. But then I think, do you think they could be like a tournament? So they could she could have the storyline with Saraya, and then they have like a women's knockout tournament type thing.
Tony does love a good tournament, let me tell you.
And then they have all these major stars compete, and then the number one contender faces Mariah May at a pay-per-view.
Maybe indeed. Something that I'm sure fans are glad to see the back of. Well, maybe. Hook defeats Chris Jericho in a last chance match for the FTW title. 10 minutes and 15 seconds. Not much to say about this match. It was quite cool when Hook and Taz got involved. Obviously, Taz is Hook's dad, who is a commentator there in AEW, commentator in WWE before that.
Managed to get a photo with Taz, didn't you?
Did indeed. If Hook lost, he would never have been able to challenge for the FTW title again. I think the coolest thing in this match was Fozzy playing Jericho to the ring for the second year in a row. Jericho has played Wembley Stadium.
Hi guys.
Hi Curtis.
Hi Luke. Hi guys.
Hi guys. But
don't forget the wave. Hi guys.
Hi guys. Cardiff, England. But yeah, I think the best part of this match was the bell ringing, and the best part of this match was when Taz got the Taz mission in on Brian Keith, and so too did Hook in the ring to get the win over Chris Jericho.
Yes. I'm glad Chris Jericho lost. I'm glad Hook won. I'm glad Taz got involved because it was brilliant. There you go. There's your answer. Thank you very much for listening. Now we continue with the next match.
But yeah, that match is over. However, when we were in there really, next match, Young Bucks defeated FTR and the Acclaimed.
Yep.
To retain the AEW tag team titles. FTR beat the Young Bucks last year at Wembley. Young Bucks getting their own back. Young Bucks coming out in Beatles attire, and the Tron was very Beatles inspired as well.
Yeah.
Tag team match 3-way. Quite a lot of good tag teams in AEW. What were your thoughts on the whole match?
Good match. Good tag team wrestlers involved in this match. They only had 12 minutes. Aside from that, I think it was a good match. Disagree with the decision to keep the Young Bucks as champions. After
the match, I think was the most interesting part of this.
It was indeed.
See the debut, we seen a match a couple of weeks ago on Collision featuring the Grizzled Young Veterans who were in WWE but got their release, I want to say last year, maybe earlier this year. They are free agents out there. Anyway, yeah, Grizzled Young Veterans stared down the Young Bucks and then they went for FTR. I think we'll see FTR against the Grizzled Young Veterans at All Out in Chicago.
Yep.
And then where they go from there, I think, is anyone's game.
Indeed.
Do they go for Bucks and go for the tag titles?
I think they will.
Do they sign with AEW? Are they aligned with the Bucks? There's a lot up in the air at the moment around that.
I mean, I think they'll go for the Bucks.
Yeah.
Get them titles off them.
Next,
the important, one of the most important, not the most, but one of the important matches and the most highly anticipated matches on the card because
I think it was highly anticipated for the fact that we were going to see some surprises. And surprises we got, Curtis.
We did indeed. I'll tell you what I do disagree with quickly as we move on to this match. You said briefly before we get into who returned and all that, you said that you wanted Jon Moxley to return. He did not return at All In. He returned on this week's Dynamite.
He did. Curtis, well, the Casino Gauntlet match.
Yes.
As we just said, one of the most anticipated matches, probably for who we would see in the match.
Yeah.
got quite a few surprises. I think the first one is Nigel McGuinness. We haven't seen him wrestle in, I think it's 13 years since he last wrestled for Ring of Honor.
Yeah, it was a good while.
He got a huge pop and came over to Oasis, which is quite cool, the same day that it was teased that they were returning or reuniting. So, yeah, he was out first. Then I think we had Zack Sabre Jr., the recent winner of the G1 Climax. I think he's the first European wrestler, first non-Japanese wrestler to win the G1. But I think we were all expecting this.
We was.
But it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Ricochet made his All Elite Wrestling debut.
What an entrance.
Ricochet made his debut. Yeah, quite a few stare downs with the likes of Okada and Sabre Jr. and people like that. What did you make of? You said he had an incredible entrance. What did you think of Ricochet in this match? Quite a different, probably, match than he's done in WWE with one certain style as we typically see in WWE, but
he got to show what he's really about. What a way to debut him in AEW. I really enjoyed the match in general, but to add Ricochet into it was brilliant. Obviously, we were still shocked from the return of Nigel McGuinness, and then not long after Ricochet debuted, which was good. But yeah, I was thrilled, to say the least.
You were thrilled indeed, and the ending of the match was quite interesting because in the first match we seen the defending trios champions of Christian Cage, Kill Switch, and Nick Wayne.
Yeah.
They lost their titles, as we mentioned, to PAC and the Blackpool Combat Club. However, Christian Cage doesn't go without title shots and title matches for too long, does he?
Couple of hours, funnily enough.
Couple of hours, if that, because he came out, I think he was number 11, and then it came up saying Luchasaurus, even though he's known as Kill Switch. He looked like he was going to turn on Christian.
It did.
But he ended up helping him by chokeslamming Kyle O'Reilly to the floor and allowing Christian to pin him 1, 2, 3. Christian has a chance for a future world title match.
Indeed he does.
What did you think of the finish?
I don't agree with Christian Cage winning.
I think that was a lot of people said Hangman should have won.
Why have Christian Cage lose his tag titles to then come into a match and take a win off that? I just disagree with that. I would, to be honest, I was disappointed when Christian Cage won. If I'm being quite honest, but it wasn't long too after when the proper matches started and I got proper excited and not a Cody Rhodes reference.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on the match type itself. Casino Gauntlet, we haven't seen it much in AEW. I think we've seen it back in the pandemic days in Jacksonville. It's like a Royal Rumble, but with a twist.
It is indeed.
In my opinion, because it could end at any point.
It's like a Money in the Bank Royal Rumble-esque type spin.
Yeah.
Because you can cash in kind of type thing.
They were emphasising that a lot, that you could cash in at
whenever
any point
you want
to win the title.
To be honest,
or to have a title match.
I'm surprised there was no involvement in the main event, but
Me too.
But they wanted to give the winner the time to celebrate and not ruin it. But I'm surprised that no one come out, or Christian Cage didn't come out, and not even just to come out and have a stare down, not even to cash in, I suppose you could say, just a little pre-warning. I'm surprised there was none of that. But yeah,
would you like people? I've seen people online saying, let's have this as a regular thing at All In. I've seen people say, let's make it its own pay-per-view like they have with the Royal Rumble.
Or like a casino Money in the Bank Royal Rumble-esque pay-per-view type thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
a casino Gauntlet pay-per-view.
That'd be pretty cool.
But it could end at any point. Yeah. So it could end with the first two. It could end within 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah. It could end within 3 seconds, 6 seconds.
But the other cool thing is, and people enter at random times. It wasn't every 90 seconds, every 60 seconds.
Yeah.
So quite often we've seen people come in with like 30 seconds between people, 10 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. So yeah, would you like to see it become its own thing, its own pay-per-view maybe? Maybe leading up to All In, as we see with the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania.
I think so, yeah, because it gives It gives AEW the chance to expand and give these wrestlers not an easy way into getting a world title shot, but they could bring in so many surprises, and it'd bring so many numbers to them. It would generate so many views. If depending on who they brought in, they could have some legends come in. Like look at Nigel McGuinness returning. That was huge. He got a massive pop.
Curtis from Newport City Radio.
Luke Lewis from Newport City Radio. A massive stare down between the two of us.
Pin you in the ring, 1, 2, 3.
No chance. No chance. No chance.
The match next that you were very much excited for, I was excited for, I think the whole of Wembley Stadium is excited for. Will Ospreay and MJF went at it for the AEW International title. The American Championship, Will Ospreay, very cool theme, very cool entrance, one of the best entrances I've seen in a good while. The Assassin's Creed, Will Ospreay said afterwards that he based his aerial assassin gimmick on the Assassin's Creed, which I think you can definitely see in
his entrance was
things. But yeah, his entrance was cool. Go on.
His entrance was cool. I really enjoyed it. What a match they put on. It was brilliant. He went for the Tiger Driver?
Yes.
He went for it. He didn't go for it. He then went for it. He didn't go for it.
He went for it and didn't go for it. He went for it and didn't hit it.
Yes. Same thing. Same shizzle. Same shizzle. Same shizzle. Okay? Same shizzle. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and the entrance was cool. All the fans were electrics, to say the least, and MJF got booed.
He was going to.
Oh, of course he was. Nobody liked him.
Like, even in America, getting booed, the whole American aspect of it, I think, was done purposefully to get as much heat on him in the UK as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And then he came down to the ring, and then we seen a massive American flag.
How dare they do that?
Which,
in my country.
Rather than the stars and that we normally see on the American flag, they were replaced with little MJF faces.
I know.
And then you had kind of, what's the word for them? Like, not strobers, like, not ribbons. What's the word I'm looking for?
I think they are ribbons.
Whatever they were, come down, obviously in the red, white and blue of America, and obviously also Great Britain. But they were there for the rest of the night.
Unfortunately, it was.
You could just see them, like,
dangling from the stage.
Down and floating in the wind. And
it was quite funny. And then every so often, one of them would just fall down on the camera.
I'm sure they planned it out in time, but surely you can have something better than...
I'm surprised that they didn't have, like, red and blue pyro, some fireworks, or, like, confetti.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 25 minutes and 25 minutes and 50 seconds, 30 minutes less than their original match. It's now 1-1 in the series. What did you think of the match as a whole? I think it's got 5 stars from Dave Meltzer. Worthy of 5 stars in your opinion. Is it a match that's worth 5 stars in your opinion?
Yeah. I believe it should be more.
Yeah.
10 stars.
10 stars in the Curtis scale.
Yeah. Curtis's ratings on Are You Ready podcast. How's that?
So,
I'm coming. Dave Meltzer.
Again, finished with this one was quite interesting. Story kind of came full circle. MJF turned heel a couple of months ago when he took out Daniel Garcia, and we hadn't seen him since up until this show. And then, just as MJF was going for the knuckles because he lost his Dynamite Diamond ring in Wembley in London while he was there for the weekend, certain someone returned Daniel Garcia and stopped MJF from cheating to win, leading in Will Ospreay finally hitting the Tiger Driver 97 after many weeks of saying how dangerous it is and that he wasn't going to do it, but eventually he did, and he ended up getting the win. And now all out we're going to see Ospreay against Pac, and we're going to see MJF against Daniel Garcia, which is going to be a cool match. And yeah, it'd be cool to see them, Ospreay and MJF, go at it one more time. As I say, MJF got the first win a couple of months ago in the 59-minute and 58-second Classic, and Ospreay won at Wembley, so it is 1-1, so surely they've got to do a rubber match at some point. It'd be quite cool to see that final match. Next match, 10th of 12, and then we can move on to Bash in Berlin quickly. Mercedes Moné defeats Britt Baker, which the crowd is very, don't want to say the word dead for. It was a cool match.
It was a cool match, but everyone was disappointed in the match. It kind of felt like everyone felt like it was a waste of time.
I don't want to use that.
Like, not the waste of time, but like they had 17 minutes and Mercedes Moné won.
Monet's entrance was quite cool with the corgis and
Yeah.
the royal theme of it, which we wondered what it was, because where we were, we could see that there was something to the...
They had it to the side of the stage.
side of the stage, and we were wondering what it was, and then obviously they brought it out for her entrance, which obviously made a lot of sense.
But 17 minutes, I don't know. And having the TBS Championship towards the end of the card, no, it disappointed. It was.
Should the two women's matches be swapped around? Yes or no?
Yes, because you have the AEW World Women's Championship at the start of the show, and then you have the TBS Championship. TBS Championship should come first, and then on the start of the show, and then have one of the highly anticipated matches in the women's calendar towards the end.
Yes.
Because that match killed the vibe a little bit.
I think any match that would follow MJF and Will Ospreay going for 26 minutes would not kill the vibe, but not have as much energy, because people are tired after that match, and
they still had loads more to bloody come.
They did indeed, and it was quite cool though to see Monet. 12 months ago, she was up in the crowds. I think she was injured at the time. I think that was mentioned in the build to this, but she was injured going into last year's All In, debuted in the crowd in one of the skyboxes at Wembley, but 12 months on, wrestled in one of the biggest and most highly anticipated matches, and retained her TBS Championship.
Because she has creative control over everything.
And next up, Curtis, a match that had time cut. Jack Perry defeats Darby Allin in 10 minutes in a coffin match for the AEW TNT title, which I was very surprised about, because Darby Allin doesn't really lose too many coffin matches. A coffin match seems to be Darby Allin's kind of match. Obviously, with his links with Sting and people like that, I thought that I had a feeling that, though, I think the most interesting thing about this match is what happened after.
Oh yeah, huge blackout.
Jack Perry won he ended up, Darby Allin took a fall off this side of the stage onto a table, which then Jack Perry got Darby in a body bag, which he brought to the ring with him, and then dumped him in the casket to win, which the ending was a little bit flat for me.
Yeah.
But afterwards,
Jack Perry proceeded to try and burn the coffin.
The Young Bucks came out with petrol or whatever it was, and
petrol and a lighter.
They would pour the petrol into the coffin, which featured Darby Allin's body. Flick the lighter on, and then the lights went out.
And then
Seek and Destroy by Metallica hit and come into the ring for the first time since he retired in March, I believe, for Revolution against the Young Bucks. We've seen Sting.
Yes.
Who we knew was going to be there. There were rumours that he was in town. I think his son posted a picture that he was at the Fulham game on the Saturday at Aquarium Cottage, which quite a few of the wrestlers were at.
Yeah.
Obviously with the links to Tony Khan, etc. But Sting's back.
He is indeed.
How long that return will last or whatever, I don't know.
Do you think, is he going to come out of retirement? No.
I don't think so. I think he's done with wrestling. I think he's 60 odd, so... No, I don't see him returning to in-ring competition. He could do stuff behind the scenes, or maybe with Darby Allin, but...
Like don't want to say manager, but like
that kind of sense, like he was doing before.
Like a manager-esque type thing.
Yeah, but I do think that there's rumours, there was talk that Darby Allin, they've had conversations about him winning the world title. Which would be cool. I do like Darby Allin as a wrestler.
He's crazy.
But with Dynamite on Wednesday and Danielson basically saying when he loses the title he will retire.
Yeah.
They would talk about him losing the title, Darby Allin winning the title in like November. So for Danielson to have like a 3-month reign with the title is, for me, like, I can understand if it's like, say, the TBS, the TNT, the FTW title. But for your world title, for your champion to change hands like every 3 months...
Yeah.
It just doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't really sit well with me.
No.
You should be building up these champions, and then whoever goes on to beat them then...
should hold it for a while.
Yeah. Like MJF held it for over a year, Kenny Omega held it for over a year. I'm sure if CM Punk didn't get injured and suspended, then he was going to have it for quite a while. Curtis. Last match, main event, I was tired. I was I watched so much wrestling over the weekend, 4 hours in Cardiff and about 4 hours here in London. I got one question for you.
Yes.
Whose house?
Bryan Danielson's house.
Bryan Danielson's house indeed. Came out first to... The match was being touted as the final countdown. We all knew that he would come out to the final countdown by Europe, which he did.
It's the final countdown. Do-do-do-do.
Which he's done in a couple of times before. I know Tony Khan made... I think so. He spoke about it in the media scrum, didn't he, that he kind of used it illegally in Ring of Honor, which I think was quite cool. Yeah, another 26-minute match to the two probably most anticipated matches on the card, going for at least 25 minutes. Danielson, it looked like he wasn't going to win. I think Swerve hit 3 house calls on him, and looking like, for all intents and purposes, that Danielson's career was over. However, it was looking like Swerve was going to win, hit 3 house calls on Danielson. And then Hangman Page, who lost the Casino Gauntlet match earlier on in the night, who we've seen recently have more of an interaction with Swerve, obviously after their 2 matches last year. Looked like Swerve was going to win. Hangman kind of equaled it out. He was ringside. And then security kind of escorted him from the building, and then out of nowhere, 2 Psycho knees, and Swerve got him in the lapel lock. He hit him with 2 Psycho knees, got him in the lapel lock, I think a couple of times. He escaped, but in the end it was too much for him. Swerve Strickland tapped out. Wembley wasn't Swerve's house. This time it was Danielson's house. The final countdown isn't over yet. There's still time left in his career. His career lives on, and he is the new AEW World Champion.
He is indeed.
What were your thoughts on this 26-minute epic, which I believe has got 5.25 stars from Dave Meltzer?
Brilliant match. Bryan Danielson deserved it completely. He was in front of his family, in front of his kids. What a special moment for him. Unfortunately for Swerve Strickland, it wasn't his house on that day. But what a stipulation, what a match. And the crowd was electric when Bryan Danielson come out. It was amazing to see. Amazing to see indeed. And he is now wrestling the man who was in the match before him, Jack Perry, at All Out. He is indeed.
What are your thoughts on that? Because overall, Danielson beat Swerve. Quite a few titles changed hands, I noticed. Ospreay won the international title. Danielson's the new world champion. The women's world championship changed hands. The FTW title changed hands. The World Trios Championships changed hands. Do you think this is a start of a potential new era for AEW?
Yeah.
We see on Dynamite that John Moxley made his return, was in the ring and confronted Tony Schiavone and said, "This isn't your company anymore." And then afterwards was seen backstage with Marina Shafir, who I don't know if I know her. Could this be leading? People have settled on speculating online. Could this be the storyline that leads to the AEW debut of Shane McMahon? Could we see a McMahon in AEW? Could we see a McMahon in AEW?
Yeah.
As part of this storyline? How do you see it playing out?
Wasn't really listening, to be honest. Seen a Facebook post.
Pay attention to the podcast.
It was my primary school teacher who died.
Curtis, final thoughts on All In?
Good, great, fantastic, brilliant. Multiple words.
Anything else?
Fantastic.
Why was it fantastic?
Entertaining.
Why was it all those adjectives and more? Why? What was so good about it?
Ospreay won. Bryan Danielson won. The ending was great. Sting returned. Ricochet debuted. Nigel McGuinness returned. What more could you want in a show? What more could you want? It was a brilliant show. Brilliant ending. It wasn't the final countdown for Bryan Danielson just yet. He is your new AEW World Champion, and I look forward to All Out next weekend on Saturday,
which you'll obviously be watching. We'll do a full breakdown next weekend of All Out on this podcast, as we always do for major events, won't we, Curtis?
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I'm sure both be very tired next weekend after watching AEW. Anyway, we mentioned at the top of the podcast about an hour ago, there was a great weekend for European wrestling. Obviously, we just broke All In down expertly, as Curtis always does on this podcast. He's such a big AEW fan. I know he's really excited to be there over the weekend. But yesterday, as we record this, we've seen the debut of a brand new pay-per-view for WWE. The first time ever they held a premium live event in Berlin. They mentioned, or in Germany even, full stop, they mentioned they did a Monday Night Raw, I believe it was, in the 90s there, 20 odd years ago. But Curtis, there was one almighty bash in Berlin.
There was
An
indeed.
almighty bash in Berlin. Even before the event started, you could tell that whenever the WWE go to cities, they take it over. I
Yeah.
think you could just tell that by the amount of things that they had going on. And
Yeah,
you seem very tired.
I am.
What did you... They announced on the show that the first match up would be Kevin Owens taking on Cody Rhodes for the Undisputed title. Oh, as always, whenever we speak about WWE PLEs, we speak about the match order is important and all that. What did you think of Cody Rhodes, the face of the company, opening up this event?
It was a good match for no storyline build into it.
No storyline build. Did you not see that promo on SmackDown on Friday?
Yeah, but I'm on about like a long-term storyline. Well, not like a long-term, but like it was just out of nowhere in the space of 2-3 weeks of Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes. But to start the show, it was a good match to start the show. It made sense for Gunther and Randy to main event.
It did.
But I think they done well with the card. It's kind of hard because all the matches that they had on the card, except from the tag match, were major storylines in WWE that are getting them some hot views.
So, yeah, Kevin Owens, who in the build-up to this has been showing more and more heel tendencies.
Yeah.
We thought he was going to turn heel. I definitely thought he was going to turn heel after this. We spoke about last week Cody not necessarily having an opponent for Bad Blood when it comes your way from Atlanta next month. So we thought...
month? Oh yeah, September this month now, isn't it?
Yes.
Second.
Yeah, whatever it is in October.
29th, I think.
We thought, and we were saying that, Kevin would turn heel and it would give enough reason for this match to go again at Bad Blood. However, there was no heel turn. Kevin and Cody embraced after the match, and I think it was revealed on the kickoff show on Friday that Solo Sikoa has next. Are we really going back to Cody and Solo? Really?
I really hope it doesn't, because Roman and Solo need to focus on that storyline. Cody Solo, do I want it? No. Do I think it'll do well? No, because they've just had a massive 2-year-long storyline with the Bloodline, with Cody and Roman and Solo being involved. Solo costing Cody the title at WrestleMania 39. Tried to cost him at WrestleMania 40, but then we had the returns. Is there any point going back to all of that just to cover a storyline temporarily? No. Could it be this time that Roman Reigns costs Solo? No. Do I want the match? No. Do anyone want it? No. Should they just go for a different storyline? Yes. Should they go for... They can't... The thing is, they can't go for Cody Randy just straight off the bat of Randy having a world title shot with Gunther and then immediately getting one with Cody a couple of months later. Next month. It just doesn't work like that. I believe they should do a tournament to define Cody's next challenger for Bad Blood.
I think it is going to be Solo Sikoa.
It probably is going to be Solo.
But with a name like Bad Blood, and when Roman returns, I immediately thought that we would see Roman Solo at Bad Blood.
Which I think should happen.
Obviously, we're building to Roman against The Rock at WrestleMania.
But why...
We think it could be Roman against... Cody against...
I'm telling you now, if it's Roman and Solo, they've messed up big time. They have to... They've got the time now, right? They tried to do it last year. We all know that the fans obliterated for Cody to main event and give it back to Cody. They wanted it for Cody. We want Cody spiraled out of control. They couldn't do nothing about it, so they had to give it back to Cody, as well as doing the main event. Or was it the main event of WrestleMania Night 1?
Yes, main event night 1 was the
40-minute match.
Rock and Roman against Cody and Solo. Cody and Seth.
Are they really going to go back to that? They probably will. Do I want it to happen? No. Yeah, event like Bad Blood. There's Bad Blood between Roman and Solo for obvious reasons, so it would make sense there. Yeah.
Rather than Roman Cody against Solo, Kevin turning heel, and then them exploring more into the storyline would make more sense at Bad Blood rather than a Cody Solo Part 2. You know, that main evented SummerSlam, so for that to main event SummerSlam, and then would this main event Bad Blood?
Probably. But it all depends on the storyline with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre.
It does. We'll come on to that after. But Cody is still your undisputed WWE champion. Curtis, can I get your thoughts on the match to open up the first Premium Live event to take place from Germany?
Great match. Great way to kick off Bash in Berlin. The storyline, the mini storyline, I'm going to call it, was there was heel tendencies. There wasn't. It was a mix of emotions.
Did you think he was going to turn?
At the end, yeah. I really did think he was going to turn, but he didn't. How that looks now, will they still be friends? Possibly. But all we know is Cody Rhodes is still your undisputed WWE champion. Yeah.
And still indeed. And
the next match is a shock, may I add.
Yes, I think there's more in this. I think the winner of Cody Kevin was a foregone conclusion anyway. I don't think any of us seen Kevin winning. No offense to Kevin, but yeah, I think Cody was always going to win that one, especially with the bloodline stuff and whatever. The next match, as you did allude to though, Curtis, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill against the Unholy Union for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles.
Yeah.
Poor booking, or did they just want to give the win to the Unholy Union because it was in Scotland?
Yeah, but
Which one?
Do I disagree with Bianca and Jade winning again? It just seems like it to be honest, it seems pointless. Why give it to them in Scotland? Yeah, they're in their hometown, but what's the point in giving it to Scotland? Giving it to them in Scotland just for them to lose it a couple of months later when they
exactly that was my thoughts when I was watching the match.
When they didn't have much, they didn't have many defenses. They didn't get much time with it.
I think they had one defense on an episode of Monday Night Raw, and I think they wrestled on NXT in a Great American Bash event, I believe.
Yeah, but if you were just going to give it back to Bianca and Jade, really, what was the point?
Exactly. Outside of that, they did nothing with it.
Really, what was the point? It's just, we all know they're heading towards a turn for them. If they're just trying to cover it up for a couple of months, they should have just kept the titles on them.
Exactly, and they go on a massive long reign and break all the records for women's tag team titles.
And then they get a shock defeat, and then they have a heel turn then.
Or even heel tendencies being shown by one or the other, which then leads to the titles being lost.
Yeah, poor match with the result. Disappointed, and to be quite frank, I fell asleep.
Was it that boring?
I watched Cody's match, and I was led in my bed, obviously watching it on my TV, and I could just feel myself just going, and I was just like, I just went to sleep. And 12 minutes later, I woke up just towards the ending, and as I opened my eyes, all I heard was "and new tag team champions." I looked up and was like, eh? What? Am I dreaming now? Is this a dream? No, it bloody wasn't.
It wasn't, but you do have new tag team champions. For how long though, Curtis? Today is the start of September. WrestleMania is 6 months away, 7 months away.
Yeah. Can't wait for that, because that'll be our year anniversary.
It will be.
What should we do for that?
But
sorted.
But no, we'll have a party for the listeners, of course. We'll have a wrestling match to celebrate.
Should we have see if we can get a live 10-minute section live on DAB of celebrating a year?
Yeah, indeed.
The third match.
I just want to go back to that. We're 6 months away from WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're champions at the moment. It's a dream match between the two of them.
Yeah.
It's obvious they're going to have a match at WrestleMania. Obvious. Really, really obvious in my eyes. I'd be shocked if it didn't happen more than if it did. But with them having the titles, how long do you see this reign going on for?
It's a difficult one because they just won them again for the second time. At the moment, if I'm being honest, there isn't a great deal of tag teams because most of them are in storylines.
Yeah.
Already, there isn't a great deal for them at the moment. There's not a lot of people that they can defend against. And to be honest, it just seems like the women's tag team titles have gone dead, if I'm being perfectly honest. There hasn't been...
Is that because of the booking or the lack of teams?
A bit of both. The booking's been poor. With the tag team titles, it just kind of seems like they really don't know... Like, the booking lately has been great. for
Yeah.
WWE in general, but the women's tag team titles have just it's just taken a massive dip, to be honest. There isn't a great deal of tag teams in it. Well, there is, but they're just in storylines and stuff, which is the problem. It just seems like they really don't know what to do with them, and they're just going back and forth with Bianca and Jade winning them for the second time. Their best option is maybe to carry them for 3 months, 2 to 3 months, which is a long time, but
Royal Rumble, maybe Survivor Series, that kind of.
yeah, around that time, and then they build up to maybe they drop them at Survivor Series, and then they both enter the Royal Rumble match or something like that, and then they both end up costing each other because they're distracted or something, and someone eliminates them from the match, which then the heel turn happens. Maybe it happens at Survivor Series. Maybe they cost one another at the Royal Rumble. There's a lot that they can do to get the heel turn going. It's just getting to that point. It is just getting to that point.
Yes.
So, yeah, what's your thoughts on where do you think they're going to keep them till? Where do you think they stand, and who do you think their next opponents are going to be?
Next opponents, I could see being, as you say, there's not a lot of women's tag teams out there, is there? Candice LeRae, maybe, and Indy Hartwell.
Yeah.
Maybe I see them, maybe the Shayna Baszler's new faction over on Raw with
Sonya Deville.
Sonya Deville and Zoe Stark. Maybe them, but they had a match at Clash at the Castle. There's not a lot of women's tag teams out there at the moment.
There really isn't.
Maybe Fire and Dawn have their rematch.
Do you think they'll win again, though?
No.
Do you think they'll just bury that storyline?
Potentially for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months.
It just seems like there isn't a great deal of tag teams, women's tag teams for the matter, which they're struggling with. It just seems like there isn't a lot for them to do. A good shout may be to chuck in there. At some point, Alexa Bliss is going to return.
Yes.
At the moment, Nikki Cross is in
The Wyatt Six.
Wyatt 6. Could we see an alignment of Alexa Bliss joining when she returns, and then maybe the two women there?
Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, I'm sure, were in a tag team.
They
back in
was.
the pandemic days.
Could they reunite, but as a Wyatt 6 format,
Could very
and
well do.
take the tag titles off whoever's the champion at the time? I think, because we know Alexa Bliss is returning is preparing for her return at some point. She posted on her Instagram a couple of weeks ago of her doing Twisted Bliss off the top rope. So she is practicing for a return. Could we see plants being seeded for that? I think that there is a good chance that could happen. Would it be pretty cool? It would.
It would be very cool.
And it builds them then as the dominant form that they are, the dominant team. And we all know Bray would love for Alexa Bliss to come back and do him proud.
Indeed. The next match, though, Curtis, we'll try and get through this as quickly as we can after being sat here for
Nearly 2 hours.
nearly 2 hours going through All In and now this. Match 2 of what we expect to be a trilogy between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. First time around, we've seen Drew beat Punk in a Hell in a Cell match. That's to come. Drew beat Punk at SummerSlam.
Hold on. That's not a prediction. It's a spoiler.
Spoiler. We've seen Seth Rollins as the special guest referee. Second match also had a stipulation. This time it was a strap match.
Yeah.
We haven't seen... The last strap match we've seen was between Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross at Extreme Rules, which they kind of referenced. Kross won. On that occasion, Drew McIntyre's lost his last two strap matches he's been involved with. However, something I did notice was a little bit different with this one. It could be different. They had to go around and touch the four corners
To win the match.
which I thought was...
It's not something we've seen
Before.
It's
No.
a new version of the strap match, I suppose you could say.
Yes.
I enjoyed it because there were funny moments. You mentioned it off air during the match. I'll let you explain. You should know what I'm on about.
CM Punk, when he came to the ring, the gear that he was wearing was the same gear that you were all in last year.
And he did something else which was quite funny, and you mentioned it as well. When Drew McIntyre was tapping the corners, a certain someone was doing something discreetly.
Drew had Punk on his shoulders and he was marching around the ring, touching the 4 posts, obviously with what he thought was a hurt Punk, obviously thinking that Punk wouldn't be able to do it. But he was walking around, Drew was touching them first, and then Punk would go around then and change them to his colour, which...
It's quite funny.
Indeed it was. And Punk won. We all expected Punk to win. I think we both predicted last week that he would win. He touched all 4 corners first.
May I add, the ending was brilliant with 4 GTSs.
Yes, he hit 4 go-to-sleeps on McIntyre.
I'm sure you thoroughly enjoyed that match.
Oh, yeah, I did. I only caught the second half of the match.
You missed the first bit of the match?
Yeah. So we expected to see it at Bad Blood. It'll main event Bad Blood, in my opinion. It's a well-deserved main event.
Hell in a Cell as well.
Hell in a Cell match, which we haven't seen since WrestleMania last year, where Edge defeated Finn Balor. Demon Finn Balor. We've seen the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view be removed under the new regime of Triple H. For good reason, I think it works its purpose in things like this, where you build a storyline up and then the play out is a Hell in a Cell match rather than building a story up.
It gives
to Hell in a Cell pay-per-view.
It gives it a new experience, especially with the name of Bad Blood. That name in itself is big enough to add a Hell in a Cell match into
There's
that.
Bad Blood in the studio.
John Moxley, where are you? But a name like Bad Blood, add a Hell in a Cell match into it as a main event, especially with the two names. The two names, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, with the storyline do it justice anyway.
Yeah.
Add Bad Blood into it. Add
Storyline of the year.
Oh yeah,
no doubt.
Storyline of the century.
See, I think CM Punk MJF is still a better story.
Yeah. But my overall thoughts on that match: entertaining, hilarious, brilliant, fantastic, phenomenal,
and it's
5 stars.
Took 4. Gets all the stars. Took 4 GTSs for Punk to beat McIntyre for McIntyre to be able to lay in the ground and not move. But yeah, we're going to see the decider we think we're going to see the decider in a backstage segment after the event. Punk said now that he's won, he's got his bracelet back, which I think is the most important thing of the event. He's going to go after Gunther,
the Ring General,
for the World Heavyweight title.
It's not happening, no.
Which I don't see happening. Maybe towards Royal Rumble time, but I don't see it happening.
My prediction
yet.
for that is, on one of the upcoming Raws, Gunther's going to come out. My thoughts and my prediction, CM Punk's going to come out on one of the upcoming Raws, and, well, Gunther's going to come out. I think CM Punk will...
You were saying, Curtis, that you think that CM Punk will come out and do what?
I think Gunther will be in the ring, cutting a promo. CM Punk will come out and say he wants a shot.
Keep going. Penultimate match of the night and penultimate match we're reviewing here on the podcast, and what has been a mammoth hour and a half, 2-hour podcast. Can't wait to listen back to it, Curtis. You've got a stellar job on your hands as usual.
Indeed. Full effort, full maximum effort goes into editing these podcasts and delivering for you guys.
There was talk, and I don't think there was we spoke about kind of the winners being predictable, Cody Rhodes winning, Gunther winning, Punk winning. I think this match was the most unpredictable one of the night, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Could have gone either way. However, the Terror Twins did pick up the win over the Judgment Day, consisting of Dirty Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan, which has been building now, obviously, since SummerSlam, pretty much before that, with Liv and Rhea. But it felt... I'm sure it felt good for them to get their comeuppance on the Judgment Day, and yeah, it felt good in a way.
Yeah, it was a great match. We knew it was happening, this match. We kind of guessed it and spoiled it on the podcast, as we always do. Great at predicting things here on the Are You Ready podcast. But the storyline of them adapting with Rhea Ripley's injury and them bringing Becky back temporarily and stuff like that has been good. But overall, this storyline is only just started fully to get in depth
Yeah.
with the split from the Judgment Day. It's mainly started at SummerSlam when the OG Judgment Day imploded.
It did.
But yeah,
Yeah, now we see the Terror Twins, obviously Damien Priest and Rhea Ripley, have so much story. There's still so much storyline that could be developed with this. Obviously, it was just 2-on-2, but the Judgment Day is like
6 of them,
there's
isn't it?
5-6 of them. We've got
Carly
Finn
Dunn.
Balor, Damien Priest, which I think we'll see at Bad Blood. That's another match we'll see there.
1-on-1 Finn Balor and Damien Priest.
Yes,
Do you think Finn Balor will bring back his demon?
maybe he will.
Because if you've noticed, when the OG Judgment Day was still a thing, there was, when they would lean in towards Finn Balor turning on Damien Priest, quite a lot of the time there was pictures of the demon Finn Balor in the backgrounds of
There was.
promos and camera shots. Bad Blood, the demon Finn Balor. I think it's going to happen.
Do you?
I do indeed.
So that potentially happening. The most interesting thing I noticed is that Rhea Ripley pinned the Women's World Champion.
Yeah, I think we're going to see
She
it.
got the pin on Liv Morgan.
I think
so.
I think we're still going to see at some point soon a one-on-one between Rhea and Liv Morgan. Maybe
2. Dom will probably interact with the finish.
Probably, yeah.
Cost Rhea.
Again? Do you think they're going to have 3 one-on-one matches? Or do you think Rhea will ever win back her title?
She will at some point. You know, she's the biggest women's wrestler on the planet right now.
Oh, yeah.
She's got to win the title at some point. But whether it's now or whether it's, say, another WrestleMania and we see a second match there or third match or
I think a third match.
or whatever. But
Maybe she wins the Royal Rumble, maybe?
in your opinion, though, was that the right winners? Because as I said, this was the most unpredictable. It could have gone either way. It could have been the Judgment Day beat Tower Twins and then...
I get... The thing is, you'd want to give it to the heels.
Especially for a first match in the feud.
To keep them going. To give it to the baby faces. Which you wouldn't think Rhea Ripley and Damien Priest are the baby faces, would you?
But again, they've done a good job in turning them into baby faces.
Oh, yeah.
Because over the past couple of months, we've seen...
They're probably one of the most biggest heels, the most biggest heel faction that they've had.
Exactly.
And now they've turned it into a split, and then being the baby faces, and the new Judgment Day being the heels. But there's so much in depth in this storyline that's going to continue with this. I think the final blow might be at WrestleMania. Of all of it, between Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Damien Priest, Dominic, I think it'll all implode.
Maybe some others, because as we keep mentioning on the podcast, it's like 2-on-5 or 2-on-6 or something.
I think I hope there's gonna be a War Games match. It kind of opens the War Games, and then we have 2 War Games matches. One being the Judgment Day War Games-esque, and the second one being Bloodline versus Bloodline 2.0. We've mentioned that quite a lot of the times, but overall, that match pretty good. I'm interested to see where this storyline goes next, heading towards Bad Blood and future pay-per-views and PLEs.
Indeed. And last but not least, Curtis, it's been a mammoth edition of the Are You Ready Wrestling podcast here on Newport City Radio.
Do you know what this reminds me of?
What?
This will be our 16th episode?
17th.
17th. And...
Remind you of the first 2?
Yeah. It's like a rerun of WrestleMania all over again.
Well, two nights of wrestling. I'm sure when WrestleMania comes along again next year, we'll do another 2-hour...
We'll have to bring back Adam but we have to bring Adam back.
We won't bring him back. He will be back on his own accord, in my opinion. But the last match, Gunther, first defense of his newly won World Heavyweight title in his adopted home country, Germany, defeating Randy Orton by technical submission. It says technical submission on our notes. Kind of passed out.
He passed out.
I found really interesting that Randy was working on top in this match. Gunther made the babyface come back from behind.
Yeah, It was a good match. Don't get me wrong. It was a phenomenal match. I want to say it was match of the night. But deep down in my heart, I wanted Randy to win. But you just know it was
saying that.
You just know it wasn't going to happen. But it would have just been phenomenal if it did happen. If he does win it, become a 15-time world champion. I know Adam wanted it to happen. If you listen to our Bash in Berlin preview, you would have heard Adam say that he wanted Randy to win. I said Gunther because that's the most obvious option, but deep down I really wanted Randy to win. It would have made a lot of fans happy, but it would have made a lot of fans upset, the German fans upset. But overall, it was a phenomenal match, and I know you said it was a great match and a great card.
It was a great match. Sorry, just to cut in there. I think what was quite interesting is Randy gave it his all.
Oh, yeah.
You could see that. He gave it everything he had to overthrow Gunther, and it wasn't his heart that gave out, it was just his body.
Yeah.
In the end, he was just that tired that Gunther got him in the sleeper and he just passed out, and that was the finish. Nice in protecting Randy. He didn't take a pin or he didn't submit, which at times it looked like he could. It was a very back and forth match.
The ending of the back and forth with the choke and trying to go for the RKO, which turned into a back suplex, which I was shocked that Randy did, with obviously his back surgery and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a phenomenal match, and they both gave it their all.
Did it top their original match at King, Queen of the Ring?
Yeah, 100%.
And where do you see Gunther going from here? We'll see Randy Orton, obviously, he went over there only because of the issues at the King, Queen of the Ring pay-per-view and the finish there. What do you see next with Gunther?
Elijah Dragunov.
Yeah.
Well, they've been doing it on the German shows, haven't they? The live shows.
Yes.
I think they tend to do that when they're building up to a storyline.
Just kind of see how the fans react.
I think that will be the next. Because personally, I think they should have done it at Bash in Berlin. But obviously the stuff with Randy's shoulder wasn't down, so it made sense for Randy to have his rematch, so they didn't keep it as long as they did, because it was kind of forgotten about until Randy decided to come out and declare his rematch.
And in the kickoff show, the 2-hour kickoff show, Randy did a sit-down interview with Michael Cole, and he was saying that maybe under the previous regime that would just be swept under the carpet.
100%.
They'd move on, they wouldn't come back to it, they'd forget about it. Whereas now Triple H has given them the opportunity to
put on a hell of a match and
go back to it. And you always want, if they're in Germany, when they're in Scotland, obviously Drew McIntyre's in the main event. When they're down here, Drew McIntyre's in the main event. You always want like a hometown hero or a hometown favourite in the main event to like root behind almost, and they definitely did that with Gunther here. So you think Ilya Dragunov next? Would that be at Bad Blood, or would that just be a TV feud for a couple of weeks?
Bad Blood.
Yeah, this Bad Blood card's going to be stacked. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre 3, Gunther against Dragunov, maybe Liv Morgan against Rhea Ripley,
Finn Balor versus Damian Priest,
Roman against Solo, or Cody against Solo, or whoever against Solo.
I think so. A bit of future booking here. This is what I think the card will be. Main event: CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell match. Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan for the WWE Women's Championship. Roman Reigns versus Solo, or Cody Rhodes versus Solo. Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. Well, the Demon Finn Balor. And Gunther versus Dragunov. That is the Bad Blood card. I'm calling it now. I am calling it now. If it does get announced, that is the card. You heard it here first. You heard it off my name. You heard it from the Are You Ready team.
You did indeed. And something else you'll be hearing from the Are You Ready team is another phenomenal edition as ever. Very, very long, longer than usual. Thank you if you listened for the full 2 hours or however long this ends up being. But that is another edition, a mammoth edition. We've gone all in. We're going to go all out next weekend for All Out.
We are indeed.
We've seen one almighty bash. And yeah, professional wrestling is cool. Whatever form of wrestling you like. Wrestling's booming at the moment. Wrestling is awesome. And thank you for listening to another edition of the Are You Ready Wrestling podcast.